Dynamite download.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 12 of Dynamite Download. We had another explosive episode of AEW Dynamite tonight. It was jam-packed. I didn't even know how they were going to fit it all into 2 hours, but they miraculously did. It is SPD right here. It is not a member of the Varsity Blonde, and it is not Dax Harwood. That is Crayfish over there. And it is the Dynamite Download team for another episode. We had a jam-packed card. And let's take a quick look right here at what we had in store to start things off for Dynamite tonight. What do you think of this card going into it?
Thanks so much for throwing this up for us, SPD. This is quite the show. A lot of us online this week we're buzzing about. It just felt like they kept releasing more and more stuff that was going to happen this week, and all of us were just like, "How do they fit this into 2 hours?" It was absolutely incredible show, top to bottom, just stacked. We got to see Shaq come out and address the crowd tonight and get to put out his predictions as far as what's going to happen between Brandy and Jade, which is just that feud is hot. SPD, let's get into the results of tonight's show because we have so much to get into. I know MJF will be all over us if we go over an hour and a half. This is crazy. I don't know how we're going to get all this in our show tonight. The Young Bucks beat TH2. They beat TH2 tonight. FTR defeated the Varsity Blondes. SPD, what'd you think of Dustin Rhodes going over 10? And then we got Eddie Kingston, the Butcher and the Blade, defeated Lance Archer, Ray Phoenix, and Penta El Zero M. That one was a hot poll on our Instagram this week.
I thought this was going to be the main event, honestly. But, after watching the whole show pan out, Abaddon defeating Tesha Price and then MJF and defeating Orange Cassidy to close it out, it made more sense for MJF and Orange Cassidy to close it out. I mean, you're talking, like you said last week, two of the hottest stars in AEW. We're talking the biggest heel and the biggest babyface currently in AEW. And so it made sense to end the show that way. But leading up to it on paper, I was really hoping more out of the Eddie Kingston and Lance Archer feud to be a main event style thing. And then we'll dive way deep into that later on. But there's a lot to talk about.
So much to get into, and we were wondering how AEW was going to fit everything in. Unfortunately, it meant that we were going to cut out TH2's entrance, which I was a little bummed about. We started off the show this week going with the Young Bucks and TH2. Me, I am the tag team wrestling slappy here at Dynamite Download. I've been beating the drum. I feel like the tag team division in AEW is unlike any division I've ever seen. The tag division,
I agree,
is so stacked right now in this company. It absolutely blows my mind, the amount of talented teams that are in this company. And I think what was awesome about this match, I know there were a lot of people buzzing thinking this was going to be a spot fest. Jack Evans is known for some incredible acrobatics. The Young Bucks, they love their spots, their high spots. But this was actually well fought, well wrestled, good chemistry and good psychology in the match tonight. And I loved that this match was a way to start off the show because this show featured a lot of tag team wrestling. There was a lot of tag team wrestling in this week's show, and it was diverse. You got to see teams like the Young Bucks and TH2 go at each other. And then we got to see a Hoss tag team, right, of the Butcher and the Blade going at it. So there was a lot of different FTR was in there for me, getting a little throwback style in. So I feel like AEW did a really great job of showcasing the division tonight. What was your overall take on the intro to this week's show, SPD? What was your thoughts on the Young Bucks beating TH2 in the fashion that they did? Did you think that knowing that this was going to be a non-title match with the stipulation that if TH2 won, I was feeling like TH2 was going to pull this one off tonight. What were your thoughts on them going down to the Young Bucks?
Honestly, yeah, adding that stipulation, can kind of be slid under the rug and missed, but oftentimes when they do add that, you find a upset come happen. And
Right.
I was honestly expecting an upset, and the performance that TH2 had was outstanding. This is the best I've seen them in ring in a
Dude.
long, long time, or if ever in AEW. Honestly, they
Yeah.
were doing some fantastic stuff. This was a perfect match to start the show. And I was tweeting it out during the show that this match, I mean, these two teams, I would love to see a best of 7 series, because this was a hot match and two hot teams that were really showing some amazing stuff. The teamwork for both teams just right off the bat. I mean, they were just doing so many different maneuvers together and so in sync. Both teams were so in sync this whole time during the match, and it was really impressive to watch. Yes, there were some high spots, there were some awesome
Oh
moves,
yeah, of
but
course.
it
That's
was
what
just
they're known for,
nonstop.
though.
It was nonstop. You have some, you're a big FTR fan.
Oh,
We'll
you
talk
know
about
it.
that match later. And then some other tags, they just slow the pace down. They slow and grind it. This was literally 100 miles an hour from the start, because they started attacking each other before the bell rang. And you talked about missing the entrance of TH2, which of course we love.
Yeah,
But
I
what
love the
was
color
it?
scheme those guys have, and the
Oh,
way
yeah.
that Angelico's day. I mean, I just love everything about their way that those guys are.
Yeah.
They're, I feel like now that they're getting an opportunity to lean into the heel tendencies of the group, and again, that's led by dirtbag Jack Evans, who I think is killing it
Yeah.
again, showing why he's a vet, why he's been around, why he's, that dude has been through ups and downs, man. You go watch Lucha Underground, some of his stuff back there. He's very proud of his Lucha Libre background. No, man, I thought that this match was awesome in that sense. I also found that it was really interesting too that Jack Evans and Helico, their whole thing has been that they've been really kind of passed over by these new teams that are showing up, right? These new flash in the pan type of teams that are showing up. And then the Acclaimed was so involved in this match, a team that's really unknown to the mainstream audience.
For
Certainly
sure.
doesn't have the history and backstory that TH2 has. Again, adding another layer of that animosity and that chip on the shoulder that Jack Evans and Helico can have, right? That's what I love about what AEW is doing, is that their heels are their anger or their motivations make sense, right? They come from a place that we can connect with. If you're a fan of Jack Evans and Helico, and I don't know how you can't be after the more you see them, right?
Right.
It's fun to get behind them, knowing that, what, they might be going a little, Jack Evans seems a little off his rocker right now. They might be going a little crazy. He might be getting a little irritated, looking into things a little too much, but you can see where those things are coming from, getting thrown into the Acclaimed like that this week. It really kind of cost TH2 the match. Jack Evans was not really the same after he took that bump into the crowd.
Right.
I felt like that was awesome. And then SPD, we talked about it. There's the grinded out pace that FTR has. I love that old school. We're going to get into that later. I can't get into tag team wrestling without saying FTR for some reason. But getting mad at the Young Bucks for having like a high spot offense is like getting mad at the Golden State Warriors for shooting a bunch of threes, right? It's what they do best. Why are they not going to do high acrobatic chain wrestling, high spot, fun wrestling? That's what they do. That's how they've made their name. And that's how they're New York Times bestsellers. This team has paved a way and paved the path for themselves by leaning into who they are. And you can't get mad at them for having that style. And that's one of the things I love about AEW. If you look at them in a bubble, sure, you could say they don't give you what I want. They don't give me what I want. I don't like this type of wrestling. But the more you watch Dynamite and the more you pay attention and the more invested you get into the show, you start to see, well, yeah, there's this match, but then there's FTR with the grind it out. They're kind of that grind out, tough,
Totally
defense,
different matches, yeah.
right? And then you have, I mean, dude, that 6-man tag, Lance Archer. I was blown away by that matchup with Lance Archer and Ray Phoenix, that David and Goliath tag team after Penta getting hurt, right? So I just feel like this was a great start to the show as far as
absolutely.
Overall, I just felt like the tag team division, again, I know there's a lot of buzz about Kenny Omega right now, and Darby Allen is involved with a storyline with Sting. So there's tons of buzz around the other divisions in AEW, but week in, week out, the tag division is the backbone of AEW. That Crayfish has been beating the
I
drum
agree.
that's
Yeah.
been the case.
I mean, have you seen the Young Bucks put on a bad match in AEW? I honestly can't say I have. And even some teams that may be questionable to showcase on Dynamite, they can make them look good and themselves look good at the meantime. I mean, the top rope maneuvers we saw tonight, the
Oh.
flips, the competitiveness, the nonstop action. I
It
mean,
was
this
back
match
and
was,
forth.
what I loved about this overall segment was, yes, we missed the entrance, but we got a nice promo package. It really kind of made the match feel more meaningful.
You're big on the promo
I know.
packages.
I mean, if you need those to help really get you invested emotionally in the match, and there was no commercial break on this, so there couldn't have been, because the momentum in this, the pedal was never lifted off the gas.
No.
And that's what I loved about this match completely. And for that reason, I mean, it is definitely an elite for me. I tweeted it out. This was by far, I was excited watching this match nonstop. I was happy for it, and it made me want more. And I kept going back and forth. I'm like, TH2 is going to win. TH2 is going to win. Oh, wait, now Young Bucks. And no, wait, now the Acclaimed are going to come in. And then now there's SCU.
I thought the
so
Acclaimed
many things are going on.
Too. Yep.
And what was amazing about this whole show was it featured so many talent. So much talent was featured on this Dynamite. And it makes you excited because there's so many different storylines and so many different bubbles where you can be following and excited about. And that's just, it's mind blowing. And it's in 2 hours.
Yeah. And SPD, like that's what's incredible. This is one of the things that I was inspired to tweet out about this tonight was just, and I know we're talking social media, right? Whatever. But I was inspired to tweet out about how I love how AEW leaves the breadcrumbs after every match or segment leading into next week's show, leading into another match or another feud down the road. Every single segment. That's how they get all they do in this 2 hours, right? Is because they're constantly building off of it. And if you're invested as a fan, you're just like, you want to see what's going to happen next. You constantly know where it's going to go. And this was another example, right? We got to see the Acclaimed were involved in this match. They got kind of thrown a package of Jack Evans in their laps, and understandably they were pissed off about it. So now they're going to want to come at the Young Bucks, and I think we're going to want to see that, right? So I love thanks. Yeah, this is what I threw out there, and I just feel like this is one of those examples, man. I just feel AEW really does a great job at that. I was surprised to see TH2 lose. I did think that they were going to win it, especially with the stipulation that they had. But hey, man, like all that does is add more, like we talk about, character motivation. It's just going to give Jack Evans a little bit more things to be paranoid about. He's going to talk, he's going to give Angelico a little bit more reason to train harder. So I like it a lot. And I think that it's going to build towards some exciting things down the road. I think that the Young Bucks are, and you and I have talked about this a lot, I think that they're underappreciated right now. I think it's really easy to overlook what they're doing. But if we step in and really look at what AEW is producing content-wise, they're the tag team champions, and they're giving opportunities to a lot of young teams and putting on, as you said, SPD, putting on matches, good, consistent matches every single week with teams of all sorts of experience levels. More often than not, the young teams that aren't getting the chances in other promotions are getting the opportunity on AEW Dynamite because of this crew, right?
Yeah, so the Young Bucks, I listened to them on Talk is Jericho, another podcast you should check out. And their story, I'm really motivated to read their book. I mean, I'm very curious about it, but their interview that Jericho did with them was very inspiring. And you talk about living the journey and where they're at and kind of like helping others climb too. Like, it was incredible, some of the stories they had, and obviously they probably go into way more in depth in their book, but just the fact that they were so close to quitting wrestling and different stages of their career, and just to see how amazing they are, it's hard to imagine AEW or wrestling without them. They're
and
that good.
That applies to the backbone of this. I mean, they are the elite, and this is all elite wrestling. The Young Bucks and Cody and Kenny, they're all killing it. And, I think that sometimes we as fans, and maybe they as a company, have shied away at times of, embracing the elite in AEW because they don't want to come off as, booking themselves over, and all those things. But we're invested in this company because of them.
For sure.
These guys, even Tony Khan too, like this company is built on the backs of people who are dream chasers, not the people who are willing to sit in like a cubicle or, willing to be just like get a paycheck at a different company and just be underutilized, right? We've all been there where you feel like your talents aren't being used in the right way, but you're getting paid, so you don't know if you necessarily want to change. These guys at all points in their lives have all had that, and Tony Khan gets a lot of criticism because he's born into money, but in the big picture, he's put himself out there and invested in a product that people could have laughed at. Think about you as a wrestling fan, how many times you've been laughed at for being a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
Now think about trying to invest millions of dollars in that, right? So I think that there's something to be said for a bunch of people who are willing to bet on themselves and take a little bit of a risk. And I think that the Young Bucks having a nice run with the titles would be really a good thing for them. I'm really excited to see all elite wrestling embrace the elite going into 2021. I know SPD, you're geeking out about the year of the collector, Kenny the Cleaner. And to me, I'm an FTR fanboy, but I loved seeing the Young Bucks win tonight. This gets an elite from me. Anytime tag team wrestling in AEW gets on, I'm gonna be biased towards it. I love it.
I mean, you made a great point about, people just collecting a paycheck. And that was another thing that on the Jericho podcast, not to, toot his horn too much. I mean, he is the GOAT after all,
Don't be afraid to toot his horn, brother. This was a big night for Jericho.
What I love about Tony Khan's leadership in AEW, which makes me even bigger fan, is that everyone essentially controls their own destiny. He talked about on the podcast where it's like, if you're not coming up with fresh material, that's on you. You're not waiting for a script to be put in your lap. Like if you're not coming out with these fresh ideas and these fresh feuds and these hot shirts and stuff like that, like it's on you. So there's so much more wrestler motivation to succeed. Whereas in the past, it was mostly just kind of Groundhog's Day and going through the motions, essentially,
right.
Waiting for your time or doing your due diligence or whatever. But that's what's so great about AEW is just you can almost control your own destiny, and we can feel it, and we can, and you can tell the difference in vibe and how people are. And it's, as you know, we're drinking the Kool-Aid.
Oh yeah,
we're through, and we love it.
You know it, brother. Really, really, really well said, SPD. And the next guy is a perfect example of that, right? Yes. Darby Allen is a perfect example of somebody who has really created his own mystique, created his own aura. These segments that he has, these promos, they're incredibly unique. And I could never see them being put on another promotion's national television show. They're just so off the wall and I thought, willing to walk the line of being awkward, like creepy, right?
There's so often times where you watch a promo, if you just kind of watch it for what it is surfacely, you're like, okay, I don't get it. Doesn't make sense. But obviously there's deeper meaning to it. You got to kind of dive deep into a lot of Darby's promos, and he is an outstanding cinematographer, and he can say a lot in a little time. And I especially loved this promo. This was simple but extremely effective, calling out everyone on Team Taz, essentially putting an extra label on them. And it worked perfect because it's helping build them up to, each label, and then giving us something to look forward to, how Cage is the number one contender. And so him and Cage are going to go toe to toe, and, the flashbacks that Darby getting thrown around and stuff. Like this promo said so much more than what could have been said if you're standing in the ring, and
just
he accomplished it.
Right.
He accomplished it so well. And it was a home run, in my opinion. One of his better ones. And it was simple, but it was definitely one of the more powerful promos that he has cut. In my opinion.
I mean, Darby very much, and you could tell from his presentation as a character, right? He's very much about the visuals.
Yes.
allowing the visual to speak for itself, right? We know the old adage, a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I think that
Mhm.
Darby recognizes sitting alone up in the stands that can send a message and a vibe
I love it.
and a feeling to the fan base far more than just cutting a crazy promo, right? The segment that we saw here with him kind of going through with Team Taz, now it was mirrored with the exact opposite type of promo where Ricky Starks and Team Taz did the more traditional, like cutting a promo on the mic. And again, Ricky Starks is fire on the mic.
Oh my gosh.
But this was an example where, you know, like you said, the cinematography of a Darby Allen segment, you could tell he's in good hands as far as where his future is going. And it makes so much sense that AEW really invested in him by investing in Sting, right? Bringing
Yeah.
Sting in the company. It's so obvious to us, to me as a fan anyway, SPD, that putting the TNT title on him, having him beat Cody, having him get paired up with Sting. I mean, could they make it more clear to the whole wrestling world that Darby Allen is the guy, right? I mean, could they do more? It's really impressive to see really what they see in Darby, to recognize he has the ability to be the anti-hero, a unique character in the wrestling landscape where so many people are just kind of, hey, I'm me, you know, like I don't know. There's just there's just a lot of wrestling characters that don't jump off the screen and don't connect with a casual fan, right? Like the iconic characters like The Undertaker and like Sting. These kind of characters are larger than life and have an aura about them. And I think that TNT and the AEW brass recognize they have something in Darby, even though he's young and he might not have the typical build that you would want to see in this superstar of an athlete. They certainly have something with this nihilistic, dark anti-hero that really is connecting with people on a level right now. And it maybe makes more sense to push him now during quarantine where everybody's kind of doom and gloom, because he certainly recognizes like there's some darkness to him, right?
For sure. I mean, I've been on kind of like the roller coaster train of Darby.
You have.
And, you know, initially I was all for him. I was like, this guy's a superstar. You know, he's your anti-hero in a sense. You know, the matches he had with Jericho where it was just amazing performance in the ring, and he still does. And then he started getting too, like I've mentioned before,
you just don't love how he gets thrown around, right?
Too crash test dummy, too reckless in that sense. And now that this made so much more sense of him winning the belt, like you just described. And now Sting, you know how Sting came out and he was like talking to Cody and he's like, I'm not here for you. I'm here for him.
Not yet, though.
Yes, not yet. But he said he's not here for him. Yep. And so that was kind of like an, oh, shoot, you know, moment. Yep. And, you know, crowd going wild, you know, hence there was no crowd. But I have to give extra props to all the wrestlers that were there. They made it seem like there was 2,000 people there. I don't know if that was just them, but them doing the chants, them cheering, you know, they did an awesome job. Yep. Nothing against Impact, but, you know, when you can hear a pin drop and no crowd, you know, this made it so much more real. You know, even if it's just wrestlers in the crowd, you know, you're getting some kind of noise. You're seeing some other people other than just the people in the ring and the camera, which essentially that's what we're here for.
Well, I mean, energy is a real thing, right? I mean, like wrestling, one of the things I've always loved about wrestling, and anybody who knows me and who's gone to a sporting event with me can attest, I like to be loud. I like to enjoy and feel the moment.
It's not uncommon you lose your voice.
Or get kicked out. I am loud. I like to have a lot of fun. And wrestling is all about immersing yourself in the story and caring about the characters. Every single match you have an opportunity to have your guy be the favorite guy. I can't tell you how many times I've gone back and watched Dynamite Download and I've said, I'm a Lance Archer guy or I'm an FTR guy. I have so many guys that I love. And I think that that's what's great about professional wrestling is that you can get fully immersed in it. And I think that, you know, for all those people who are critiquing the vibe and the buzz around Sting, it's just people who are immersing themselves and allowing themselves to feel the joy and excitement of seeing a guy that it's not just seeing Sting, but seeing him presented in a way that we can be excited about again. You know, he has the mystique and the aura again. He's not presented in no offense to WWE, but I understand Sting was their greatest competition and almost put them out of business. So
yes.
it takes a certain type of humility to want to promote somebody on your show after they fought you and made your life hell for so many years. So
True.
he was never presented in the way in WWE that we as Stinger fans wanted to see. And so I have the utmost confidence that, like you just talked about earlier, that Tony Khan's going to give Sting the ball and let him run with it and let him control his character. And
it's going to be great.
And that's going to lead to great television. It's going to lead to great television. And I think that, you know, one of the reasons why it's going to lead to great television is because they have such great antagonists. Team Taz is so awesome. I love this crew. They crack me up every single week now. I just can't get enough of like their dynamic. I think that it's hilarious how they're starting to become this formula of a Team Taz promo. And I'm actually loving that this is the case. But every single week, Ricky Stark's starting to look sharper and sharper. He's looking more and more like a star.
Chain and the turtleneck. Look at that.
My man looked on point tonight. And he spits fire on the mic. You could tell he's just confident. He's calm. He's collected. My man knows that he's the shit, right? Ricky Starks knows that he's the man. And he oozes that confidence in every promo. And then you got Willie Hobbs, who, again, I wanted Willie Hobbs to join way long time ago. And the main reason why is because he has just a presence about him. He doesn't need to say anything. So you have Willie Hobbs just standing back there in the back of the promo, just looking big and bad. Taz has always got that chip on his shoulder. He's a little guy. He's always had that, like, kind of that small man complex that drove him in ECW to be one of the baddest dudes on the planet. And then you got Brian Cage, who looks like he's carved out of rock, but he cuts that line. He throws an ode to Canyon every single week, and I love it. I love that he's constantly giving love to Canyon. I think that's really cool and speaks volumes to, you know, where Cage has come from. I love what you're showing here. There's so many people who are buzzing about Ricky Starks being maybe the next Rock, just having that sort of that aura to him, right?
Charisma at its finest. I mean, talk about a diamond in the rough, like Ricky Starks. You know, as soon as Cody gave him the open challenge, and I have to admit, I did not know who he was.
No, dude.
And as soon as he debuted in AEW and put that performance on, I was like, okay, I can get behind this.
Yep.
And we are seeing him grow right before our eyes into an outstanding person like that we need to see on TV every single week. Like this guy, and when he gets on commentary on Dark, man, he's great on that.
Yep.
And just the overall pairing of Team Taz.
And just to jump off of that,
great.
dude, I mean, I want to piggyback off that, right? Is because, you know, there's been a lot of, conversation and debate about what AEW is going to get out of this pairing and cross promotion with Impact. And this is another, I just want to reiterate, right? Ricky Starks would not be here if AEW wasn't so open and didn't work with NWA. NWA has provided a lot of great talent to AEW, and we got to be thankful for that. So we have to just approach things with an open mind and recognize that, man, there's a lot of great wrestlers around the world. And I love that AEW is committed to trying to do anything they can to show us them. That's it. So
that's what it's all about. We're all fans, and we just want wrestling to be good.
That's it. I can't wait for next week when Brian Cage goes up against Darby Allen. I know that that's one of the biggest drawbacks that you had with Darby's character. You were struggling so hard to get over that Brian Cage hump. He is the machine. He's a massive man, so I understand it would be hard to get over seeing him just whip around Darby Allen like he did. I loved how Willie Hobbs was not that long ago when Willie Hobbs was in that tag match with Ricky Starks, and they went up against Cody and Darby, and I loved how Willie Hobbs was just ragdolling Darby. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. And I have a feeling, SPD, you're gonna see a different Darby next week. I think obviously he's gonna be going up against the Goliath of a man. But he's the TNT champion, and I think that having Sting in his corner is gonna maybe even the odds a little bit with Team Taz always playing the numbers game. So, that's one of the things that I love about tag team wrestling though is, the teams that do take advantage of the numbers game, the teams that always find a way to outsmart the officials. When I think about the ultimate heel tag team, I love FTR. I love what they do in the ring. I love how they always have a way of manipulating the rules, playing off the fans, always finding a way to build emotion and get you behind the other team.
Mm-hmm.
I know we haven't seen a ton of Varsity Blondes on Dynamite, to be honest. But by the end of this one, I was rooting for them to come out on top. They were up against the ultimate heels, and I think they showed out.
If there is a trios champion in AEW, I think I'm going to see if Varsity Blondes need a third member, man. I think I'd fit right in. So, that would be a fun trio to be a part of. Griff Garrison at 22 years old and Brian Pillman Jr., those guys can work, and they're exciting in the ring, and it's great to see them on Dynamite.
One of the things I liked about this too, SPD, was, JR pointed out during the match that, Brian Pillman, Brian Pillman's father, had a very different style. And I think that that's a nice way to allow the younger Brian to build off of his father's legacy, but also start to branch out and build his own name and brand. This kid's got a lot as far as his future is in store for him. He's been through a lot as a kid, going through, always having that shadow over his head. His dad really is considered one of the greatest what if stories in professional wrestling. As a fan of Brian Pillman, I think that would be incredibly hard to be his son and to follow in his footsteps.
Right.
And I give a lot of respect to Brian Pillman Jr. I think that his dad has to be incredibly proud of him. He looked incredible tonight. The mullet looked so sick.
Best hair in the biz, right there.
It was awesome, man. And I think that he and Griff Garrison held their own against, to me, there's nobody who sings FTR's praises louder than I do, maybe other than themselves. But for the Varsity Blondes to show up tonight and hold their own against FTR and really put on a great back and forth babyface heel match like they did, it was really a nice showing for them, and I'm excited for their future. Obviously, I don't see them being in the title picture quite yet. They don't quite fit going against the Young Bucks anyway, really. But I do want to see more of this team together. I think that they have a good potential, and I think that they work well off of each other.
I think so too. I like that they're, rebranded to the Varsity Blondes, and, honestly, I think Griff Garrison, if he put on about 10 to 20 pounds, he would look like an absolute superstar. He's got a great look. He's really actually impressive in the ring. It was very beyond his age, very mature in the ring. And for him to
he seems smooth and polished.
He was smooth, he wasn't going through motions. It seemed very natural to him. And for him to really go on a run, kind of dominating FTR for a little bit, I was surprised by that overall. This is the first time we've seen FTR since Full Gear on November 7th. We've been missing them. They're much needed to the tag team, a stacked tag team division. And, the breadcrumbs whole thing, it's nice that they had a little face-to-face. Luchasaurus, baby.
I know.
And
go ahead, geek out, because I'm always geeking out about my favorites. I know you've always been a Luchasaurus guy. So go ahead. Tell us how excited you are about FTR versus the Jungle Express.
It's not confirmed yet, but obviously it's just the breadcrumbs are there. But the match itself, there were some, the Varsity Blondes were impressive showing, but honestly, the match itself, I'm giving it a hard rating. I'm giving it a delete. And I'm sorry, you being the FTR fan, it wasn't their best match. It kind of was anticlimactic and ended just like randomly in a way. There was some cool spots going, and that's what I'm talking about. The roller coaster, the slow and the fast paced and all that. And so to me, it's a delete, sadly. FTR being such an awesome team, you've got me on the FTR train, and the Varsity Blondes doing a great performance on TV, but the storytelling in the match gives it a delete for me.
Whew. Well, I mean, it sounds like you're jumping off the train, the FTR train, and that's okay. That's all right, man. We don't need you anyway. But for me, I can't, as an FTR fan, I can't give this a delete. Although I will say it's a soft elite from me.
Oof.
I
We don't
struggled.
have a graphic for that.
Yeah. um, I struggled with this one a little bit, buddy. I understand where you're coming from. There were times in which, and I can appreciate Dax always getting in the work, right?
Yeah.
He's a big fan of the like the headlock takedowns.
Mhm.
They like to grind out their opponents, and I feel like this was a really nice tug of war of a team that likes to bully their opponents, kind of grind out their opponents, kind of old school, just kind of brawl their opponents
Yeah.
into the mat, using tandem offense, things like that with FTR. And then a young team who maybe doesn't understand the pacing that like FTR does. Not to say anything bad about Varsity Blondes in this sense.
Right.
They're young. They're going to learn these things. Not every team is going to be at the level of FTR. You have to think about where FTR's been, the level of competition that they've had.
Mhm.
Anybody who's watched FTR's career, I've watched them all the way dating back way before AEW. And I've always been a big fan. And a big reason why is because they do understand the psychology of wrestling. I think that that's an art, and that
Yeah.
takes time to really get into. So I think the Varsity Blondes are going to take some time. There were times in which you could see that tug of war of styles. They kind of butted heads, and I
Yeah.
felt like the high energy team of Varsity Blondes didn't necessarily know how to react at times to a grinded out team like FTR. And I think the Varsity Blondes would probably be better suited going against teams like TH2, the Young Bucks, Lucha Brothers. I could see them having some great matches with the Lucha Brothers. I think that there's a lot of potential for them, but this was not my favorite match by any stretch.
Right.
My only major delete of the night is the next one though, Dustin versus 10. And that kind of bums me out because I've been really getting into 10 lately. I'm a big Wardlow fanboy.
Mhm.
I'm repping my Cleveland Browns tonight for my boy Wardlow. I'm a big Wardlow fan. I know he and 10 are boys, and I can see why. 10 is incredibly jacked. Dude is a physical freak. You just talked about Griff Garrison needing to put on a couple pounds as far as muscle. He should go hang out with Wardlow and 10, and he'll be making Johnny Huggy looking like not the meat man of the Dark Order. I'll leave it at that. He'll be putting him to shame. So I think that 10 is obviously he's a beast, and I liked his showing. It was nice pairing against Dustin Rhodes. Obviously, 10 prides himself on some sort of that old school offense. Throws the best spine buster in the business. Just to ask him. I think that he and Dustin were a good pairing of styles, kind of more old school brawlers. But the match itself kind of fell short for me. It just it didn't feel like it matched the level of stakes or circumstances of the other matches on the show. And I guess it had no lesser stakes than FTR's match, but
Right.
I just haven't seen FTR fight on Dynamite since Full Gear. So maybe that, to me, I was more excited to see them get reestablished. Where were you at? Kind of, I'll let you take the lead a little bit on this one, SPD, just because I did appreciate the post-match antics, and I'd love to talk a little bit more about what happened with Hangman and the recruitment specialist.
Yeah.
And I think that was my favorite part about all this. The match itself, I struggled with a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you here. The match itself is a delete for me, sadly. I'm a huge Dustin Rhodes fan. The natural is, he could he's up there in the top. He lives up to the Rhodes name.
Well, we
just as
talk
Cody
about
does. Yes,
yeah,
he's
we talk about
fantastic.
like veterans like Sting and things like that getting back in the ring, and we got to remember Dustin. The dude's in his 50s and he can go.
Oh
The
yeah,
guy
he
is a
can
beast.
go with anybody, and it was great to see him last week. And I was hoping for a more meaningful match, just not this kind of random no build match. It was kind of anticlimactic again and ended abruptly, and I didn't really I don't know. It just it wasn't in the right place.
Yeah, time
Or-
out. Now that you mentioned that, I gotta just say real quick. John Silver said that he's gonna get all over 10 because 10 lost to a bulldog. You just mentioned the match ended abruptly. I mean, yeah, literally, it ended incredibly abrupt. I don't think any of us thought 10 was gonna go down like he did. It was kind of a weak finish.
No, 10 has got a great look, and yeah, here he goes.
There you go.
Johnny Hungy's gonna kick 10 for losing.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think I'm on Johnny Hungy's team aside here, man. The meat man comes and he delivers, brother. He's right. I think that 10 is the muscle of the group, and even when we date back to when Brody brought him in, there was more hype around 10 than any of the other recruits. And I think that they've lost that a little bit with where they're going with his character. I think that they need to establish him. I understand that his record's 500,
Right.
and he's got some wins on Dark, but I think that they do need to establish 10 with some wins on Dynamite here and there. A win against Dustin tonight would have gone a long way for 10, and it wouldn't have hurt Dustin at all, right? I mean,
I agree.
It could have been a surprise win for 10, and it would have been something that was much needed for the Dark Order. They really don't have a lot of momentum right now. Maybe that's the story with them leading into maybe Hangman, right?
I mean, the match so sadly so anticlimactic, but the highlight was Evil Uno getting back on the mic. He is very good on the mic, and we've seen this whole recruitment style ask and then getting turned down time and time again. I don't know when they're going to finally struck gold with someone saying yes. I guess you got to.
It's gonna be Hangman. He's gonna join. I love it.
I don't know. I mean, we can kind of segue to that part because they're trying to recruit stuff, and I was texting you yesterday about where's Brody Lee, and to me, I think Brody Lee, his time off with whatever he's doing, he's going to come back with a new recruit that is completely badass, and then really give Dark Order some credibility, really go on a wrecking ball with this new recruit that Brody Lee has been training for these months that he's been missing. Someone big. I mean, I texted you, but
I hear you
in that sense of Aleister Black from WWE or someone, some new face. Even. I don't know. That would be a perfect fit, but
it would be. I think we could fantasy book.
Yeah.
We could fantasy book all night long. I think that there's been a lot of buzz about potentially getting Aleister and his wife into AEW, and maybe they do that, right? I mean,
that would be huge.
That would be great. I think that there's a lot of fans, especially again, like I talked to you about it this week. Not to get into a WWE thing here, but
right.
Aleister had everything going for him in NXT. He had this look, this presentation. His entrance was like, I think we love AEW because so many of their entrances are incredible. Aleister had a great one, and it feels like they really missed an opportunity with him, and it would be one man's trash is another man's treasure, and I think that he would be a phenomenal fit in the Dark Order.
Yes,
Tommy End coming into the Dark Order would be freaking awesome. But I digress. I don't want to get too off track here. We need to talk about a Shaq promo. So,
I want to put this photo up real quick first, but it had me cracking up, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, these guys always are hilarious.
Partners? You guys need some partners? And John Silver and Alex Reynolds are going to be on AEW Unrestricted next week. Aubrey Edwards just tweeted that out, and I would love to have John Silver on Dynamite Download one day. That would be dreams come true, because this guy, as I say over and over again, silver equals gold with whatever he does, and I cannot wait to see him again on Dynamite, as he deserves to be on week in and week out. And I mean, just being the BTE champ, I mean, we're going to put him over as much as possible.
We love Johnny Silver. And I got to say, Johnny Silver is a big reason why I feel like I have such egg on my face. I feel like such a
Mark
turncoat. I was so vocally against. If you go back and watch some of our beginning episodes, I was such a hater of the Dark Order, and slowly but surely, Johnny and the crew of the Dark Order have won me over, and I am like a hardcore. I have joined the Dark Order. I love this group. I think they're hilarious. Honestly, there were some questions going around on social media. We were chatting with some of you guys, and one of the questions was, who do you think is low key one of the coolest guys on the roster.
Oh,
And there are guys like, Wardlow, like that guy seems cool, right? Like Jericho, he's really cool. Like, but I think that John Silver is like the coolest guy on AEW's roster. I just think that he doesn't take himself too seriously. He's willing to laugh at himself. He's willing to do anything it takes to make other people happy. And I think that is a cool person. So
I agree. I would love to go on a road trip with him and
I
would join the Dark Order for him.
You'd be taking body shots sooner than later, brother. Johnny, if you want to have an interview with us, we got some 6-packs over here. I got all over it. So anyway, man, it like we could be geeking out about this segment all night. I really love where they're going with Hangman. And they pointed out who's going to, Hangman needs partners next week. And honestly, who's going to be his partner right now?
Yeah.
He doesn't have any allies right now. So the Dark Order being there for him. And I got a feeling we were just talking about 10 losing that match. I got a feeling with the recruitment specialist being paired with Hangman, Dark Order is going to get a win next week.
I hope so. And I think so too.
I think, that's going to be a really nice, and then what happens, right? Hangman and the recruitment specialist win. You got to keep the winning streak going. You got to keep going. So I love that. Let's get into the hyped moment of the night. Shaq, baby. I think that this segment produced an incredible meme going forward with Shaq's expression after getting a glass of water thrown in his face. One of the things that I found interesting on this SPD, and I'll let you jump in because I know you got a lot of thoughts, but one of the things I thought was really interesting was I was very curious about how I know that they were trying to get Shaq involved with Cody, and I was very curious how they were going to do that. I never thought that this would be the path they'd go down. And I think it's been beautiful. It's going through Cody's wife.
Yeah.
And I think that if any of us who are married know that, when you go after our wives, like we as men are going to stand up and fight back. So
right.
I think that unfortunately Shaq's going to end up getting pitted against Cody because of the actions of someone that not his own, right? Because we're going to have Brandy continue to get attacked like she did again tonight, right? I'll let you jump in, man. I really do feel like this storyline, though, is developing deeper and more intriguing aspects to it than I ever thought it was going to.
Yeah, I mean, it's just surprising to me how many different branches that Cody is involved right now. You're talking like this Sting, the Darby, Team Taz, Shaq, his wife, being the leader of the Nightmare family. So it's it was a shocking
when Brody
promo.
comes back, there's going to be stuff with that still.
Yeah. So it's great because I love seeing Cody on TV and he's awesome, both in the ring and on the mic. So I don't want him to fizzle out, but there's just so many. He's developing a lot of enemies quick, and so I did not expect where this was going to go with Shaq. I thought it was going to be kind of like an in-ring type of interview or something along those lines, not like a sit down with Brandy. And it kind of seemed predictable in a sense. It was simple but effective, and it's going to, there's a lot of open-ended questions, and where does Shaq go from there? It's going to lead to some stuff. So I have mixed feelings about it. It did its job. It's good to see Shaq, but I expected more fireworks. It would have been cooler for him to have like an entrance and come out and kind of just hype him up.
I think there's going to be a time and a place for that. I think this is a really nice way to, AEW is going to get a lot of criticism for having Shaq on their show, and they have. And I think that's going to happen anytime a company takes a risk and is doing something different to try to get eyes on the product.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that this was a nice, like, low-key way of bringing him in. I think that this was like a natural way, rather than this be this big pomp and circumstance around Shaq. They had a sit-down interview, and they just kind of had Brandy talk it out. And we got to understand his motivations for being involved in AEW now.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like it's a forced TNT decision. It feels like a character-motivted decision, which is good. I think that was important. One of the other things I want to mention too is I think that Tony Schiavone actually was up for one of my performers of the night tonight. I mean,
he was involved everywhere.
What a week he's had.
Yes.
Being involved with Tony last night at Impact, And then, he was all over the show tonight. I got to give Tony some props. And this is going to be a reason why I think that this segment could have gone off the rails if it wasn't for Tony. He really kind of played off the characters a little bit. And I think that Tony really killed it tonight. His commentary, the whole commentary team, and this is something too. I think that it's awfully funny how the commentary team of AEW was a big topic of conversation like 5-6 months ago, and now no one's talking about it. And you want to know why? It's because they're polished and they're smooth and they felt it out and they're like they actually had time to work together.
Right.
So you could tell these guys are pros. They just needed some time to fit into their roles. And now that Tony is comfortable and back on television again, I think that he's really starting to blossom and become one of the stars of commentary. I think that AEW's commentary is so good across the board. And I just want to take a break from reviewing Dynamite to complement AEW's commentary, whether it's Taz or I think Excalibur has gotten so much more natural in his role and more comfortable. We just talked, I think Tony Schiavone and JR are two legends in the business, and there's a reason why they're as respected as they are. I think Tony really especially has felt more comfortable in recent weeks than he ever has. I think getting involved in the Britt Baker segments, kind of getting
he's great with that.
Right? Getting him to laugh at himself a little bit, loosen up a little bit. I think that he's really come into his own, and I just want to compliment AEW's commentary for that. I think, too often we only focus on the negative, and it's really easy for us to just crap all over something when it's struggling. And I think that it's important that we backtrack and we look back on those things that we had kind of given hot takes on and said how awful things were. And now we kind of eat some crow, guys, and recognize, these guys, just like an offensive lineman in football, they need time to gel together. They're a unit. They need to work off of each other. They're talking to each other nonstop for 2 hours while things happen in front of them. So I just wanted to give Tony some props. He was up there for my performer of the night tonight, and there's good reason. That's all I wanted. I just wanted to give him a shout out.
Cheers to him.
Yeah. So speaking of shout outs, man, I want to get into the Inner Circle promo because to me, you and I both, you're wearing the Inner Circle shirt tonight. You and I both did not want to see the Inner Circle break up because giving them a shout out, I think that this crew is legitimately, when you look at a 7-man team, there's no weaknesses on this crew.
No.
Giving these guys a shout out right now, I'm just going to say, like, any given week, you talk to anybody, you're going to have a different favorite. I know that you were really blown away by Ortiz tonight.
Yes.
I think that he's really been blossoming as the level-headed one of the group.
He had a lot to say, and I think he spoke the most sense in the team. How saying that MJF and Wardlow are assets, and we need to. He was just kind of doing, the peacekeeper essentially, but he
challenging
made some great,
Sammy to be the better man.
That's right. And what I loved about this segment was that everyone had a mic, everyone spoke, everyone had something to say. And Jericho the whole time, unfortunately, Santana, yes, we did miss him. But there's so many different future things that can happen out of it. We talked about, we can't wait for Wardlow and Hager to go head to head. We can't wait for Sammy to eventually turn babyface and go head to head with MJF. If that's the case, Sammy is awesome in the ring. And watching the ring, and he is a star that is on the rise for sure. But surprisingly, Jericho was just this so cool and relaxed guy.
He felt like the Godfather.
I know, he just was like just keeping them together, and then it was a great segment. That could have been a hot mess, but it worked well together.
No, this was my segment of the night, man. I don't feel like any segment hit me on different levels like this one did. I think that it got me like on the emotional thing a little bit where, I feel like there were different moments where you could feel friends breaking away from each other and the bittersweet that happens, in life. Even though we might know that we could accomplish great things together as friends or whatever, but you just realize maybe they don't fit in your inner circle. and you break away from friends. And you could feel that happening at points where you, like you said, it could have gone off the rails where this crew that I mean, I love the Inner Circle, and I genuinely feel like all 7 of these dudes are awesome. Like I love all 7 of them.
I agree.
For all different reasons. I thought MJF was particularly convincing tonight in his promo. I thought that he took Ortiz's pot shot about Sammy being better than him, and he knows it really well. I thought MJF also for being criticized as much as he is on social media. I thought it was awesome how he acknowledged the buzz on Twitter and social media and all the back talk and all the seeds that they've been planting about MJF turning the Inner Circle against each other and breaking them up. I thought he did a really great job of acknowledging social media. And I also thought that MJF did an awesome job of like kind of recognizing, guys, I fought and begged to get into this group. Like, why would I want to, like, I genuinely respect you guys and I want to be better. So he had me fooled. I know MJF's probably grinning ear to ear because I'm a sucker Mark. But he had me fooled. I loved it. And extending his hand like he did to Sammy, those two shaking hands. And I thought that Sammy's, more than anything, even more than his intense face-to-face with MJF, I felt him going to Jericho and telling Jericho, if any more of this stuff happens one more time, I'm out. That was the moment where you could see the baby face coming out of Sammy, because Jericho's always been kind of his hero, the sex gods. You could always see that Sammy looked up to him, and for Sammy to say enough's enough, I'm going to stand up for myself. I'm not going to keep getting pushed around like this. Combined with that kind of motivation, combined with his natural offense, he is going to be a star. He's going to be an over baby face. There's no doubt. A lot of people are going to be rooting for this kid because he's easy to root for. He's just got that. He's got that charisma. He's got that over the top offense that you just want to see more of. But then again, like, we got to see the big fellas acknowledge their history too. I just thought overall, every character leaned into what makes them special. I was incredibly happy to see them not break up. I was incredibly happy to see
me too.
The Painmaker Jericho play that Godfather role where you talked about this, SPD. I want to give you some props. You talked about, even with Jericho, maybe not wrestling as much, but him playing that leadership role in the Inner Circle. You wanted to see Jericho lead more. The Inner Circle for a little while felt like it was just existing. And you wanted to see Jericho kind of regroup the team, refocus the team, and actually lead them with purpose. And I think that Jericho really stood out tonight. I think that he really did an awesome job playing that elder statesman, the one that said, we're all going to have some uncomfortable conversations. We're all going to call each other out. We're going to get all the dirty laundry out for everybody to see. And then we're going to come together as men. And we're gonna be in the Inner Circle together, right? I thought that was a beautiful thing. It was an awesome segment, top to bottom, loved it. Speaking of top to bottom, loved the segments. I think that you and I both were looking forward to the Eddie Kingston, Butch, Blade going against Lance Archer and the Lucha Brothers match. To me, I felt like this was a match that, like you mentioned earlier, we thought this was going to be the main event for most of the week. This was going to be the one that really had the most buzz around it. To me, dude, when I look at the way these groups present themselves whenever they're on screen, the Bunny she's been such a great asset to the Butcher and the Blade. Such better utilization of her talents in this group than being a part of the Nightmare Family. That sadistic, nasty side of her really helps kind of drive home that, like, we want to hate this team. Kind of that old school heel manager vibe that has gone away, but like in the line of, Sonny and Sherry Martel, like all these characters in the past who really have been that beautiful vixen who, like, cheats and is evil, right? Sadistic. I love that. And even in Eddie Kingston, every time he's on screen, man, his facial expressions, his reactions, the way he interacts with other characters, he's just always emoting. He's always on. He's never going to be one of those guys who's caught not throwing a punch or acting like he's just waiting for a move to happen to him just because he's always on his game, dude. This match last week going into it, I was saying this was an example of iron sharpening iron. I think that these guys are going to put on, this is not the end of it, dude. Like there's going to be so much
it's far
good.
from it.
Oh, there's going to be so much good television that comes out of this, dude.
And that's what, like I said last week and the week before, that building a new main event core with these 7 guys, minus Pac, and sadly, like he made this triumphant return and this hype and all this. Like now, where is he?
I don't know.
You have an A-list superstar like Pac.
You can't start and stop like that. Yeah.
You cannot start. You have to keep the momentum going. Even as soon as Penta got thrown through the table, I thought Pac was going to come out and kind of replace him.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. That would have been sick.
That kind of is where I was like, okay, Pac hasn't been around. He needs to be around. This is kind of a perfect placement. Or even at the end, just kind of repeat what Lance Archer did. So I don't know where he is, and it's a bummer because you cannot start and stop like you said. But to the match itself, these 7 guys, including Pac, are a awesome main event core that we need to see more of. The crossbody by Lance once again over the ropes.
Were you geeking about that?
So I put on our Instagram, Dynamite Download Instagram, and I said, who throws a better crossbody, Lance Archer or the Butcher? Because the Butcher threw a crossbody too, and I was like, dang, okay.
Against
so
Phoenix?
It's the battle of the crossbodies. So I don't know who I would want to take a crossbody from more or not.
Let me piggyback off of that. There's 2 things I want to say off of that. First, dude, Butcher is a big guy.
Yeah.
But you forget how big Lance Archer is until he's in the ring with a guy like Butcher, dude. Like Lance Archer's freaking huge, man. Like he looked massive compared to Butch, and Butch is a big boy. Like, I was kind of taken aback because I'm a Lance Archer fan, and I was just like, damn, that tuna and peanut butter is working for you, Lance. Like you're a big dude, man. I was blown away. And then the second thing off of that was I was watching this match and watching Lance throwing his body back and forth between those turnbuckles, just running full steam ahead into Butch and Blade. Watching Lance Archer throw some legitimately, I think he hit Eddie Kingston in the mouth at one point in this match because Eddie had a little blood, and I could hear and see the pop of his fist hitting Blade's chin at one point in the match. It made me think, who would you least want to get into a street fight with on the AEW roster? And I'm throwing that question at you because I watched this match and I was like, these guys were beat, dude. This match was so physical. Like you just talked about, Butch throwing that cross body against Phoenix. These guys, the chops that Phoenix was throwing tonight. Penta is usually the lucha bro that I'm geeking out about with the chops. Phoenix did his brother proud after Lucha Pentagon was out. Phoenix was throwing some nasty chops tonight. But who would you least want to get into a street fight with, SPD?
I have to think about that one and sleep
Come on. No, on the spot.
And the whole roster?
Who would you least want to fight?
Oh, gosh.
You're not getting out of it.
Honestly, I think Eddie Kingston, just because his face scares me. His
face scares you.
When what happened last night when they did an AEW online exclusive between Archer and Eddie, just the look on his face is
Eddie's
scary.
got that grimy.
So yes, Lance Archer is very intimidating stature and everything, the look, the hair, that. But for some reason, like the whole face of Eddie makes me be like, nope. Not even getting involved in that.
Yeah, Eddie's got that kind of like grimy, and if you follow him on social too, I mean, like he's big into Nas, which back when my middle school days, man, I would love me some Illmatic. I love me some Illmatic, but no, I mean Eddie's got that grimy like New York kind of.
Yep.
He'll beat you up in the back alley and he'll steal your wallet kind of vibe to him. So I can understand that. But man, just based on physical capabilities, I don't want to. I mean, Lance Archer is a monster of a man, and then dude, the flying cross bodies that he can throw. I'm just blown away by what this guy is capable of in the ring. And to think that he's just getting the recognition that he's getting now, it's kind of wild. I mean, he's certainly, I think that he's at his peak. You could tell he feels confident in his abilities now. You can tell like he's grown into his body. He's definitely that is a big talented dude. I know that he's a nice guy in real life from what I see anyway on social media. I'm a big fan of his. He's really kind to his fans online. But I think that his blend of size and strength and speed and athleticism and his everybody dies mentality where he like, dude, I don't know. I wouldn't want to mess with Lance Archer. That guy is a beast. So I was blown away by that. The overall match itself gets an elite out of me just because to me, like you talk about establishing a core of guys you can get into. I was bummed that Penta got hurt.
Yeah, me too.
And was out of the match. I think but that was a really nice way of telling a story in this one, right?
It made sense.
You and I have talked a lot about, this being a long-term feud. Think about how much great television that you and I want to see out of this matchup, right? So having certain instances like this happen where, Lance and Ray lost, but they showed out and they held their own in basically a handicap match for like the commentator team. Again, I was giving the commentators props. Commentator team mentioned a lot, this is basically a 4-on-2 match with the way that Bunny got involved and the way her distractions and kind of getting in people's faces and getting physically involved in the match too.
For sure.
So this was an example where they protected the long-term feud by giving us a match that we want to see, but not necessarily letting it play out fairly. So we still want to see it again,
Yeah, and that is a good point by you. On paper, this is nothing against anybody on the roster, but on paper, you put Lance Archer and the Lucha Brothers on a team together, no one should beat them. So, and same thing with Pac. If you added that, those type of trios.
Well, we had that poll
are
tonight.
Unstoppable, and we had the poll, and then we have the other poll that I did on our Instagram with the best cross body. Right now, Lance Archer is in the lead. He's got a pretty good lead in that one, but Ray Phoenix is just so amazing in the ring.
Yeah,
he is so fun to watch, and he put on a great show. I was struggling with my top performer of the night, and in ring, I thought he was doing some incredible stuff.
He wowed.
It wasn't. There were some low points for me in the match, kind of slow, but overall, it definitely gets an elite out of me. I mean, these guys have been consistently putting on great matches week in and week out, whether it be singles matches, tag team matches, 3-on-3. And it just, not to beat a dead horse, it just bothers me. Like, where is Pac? But, the end of the match, it protected everyone. Lance and Ray got the loss, but then Lance kind of stood strong at the end. So it really did protect the feud long term. And so that was good storytelling in that sense for me.
Yeah, I think that it's all about the story with this crew, and I think that Lance Archer leaned into his animosity towards Kingston in the match, and especially with that great camera angle that we got, where he was like in the corner and like kind of rubbing Eddie Kingston's face into the turnbuckle, and you could tell that they were leaning into that, and I think the storytelling is going to carry this feud for a long time. Me as a Pac fan, I was really bummed not to see him tonight, and I am worried. I'm worried about the negative social reaction that came after Tony's tweet about being game changer and changing the landscape, and a lot of people not being receptive to it. I'm a Pac fanboy, and I think that Pac he's my favorite wrestler in the world. I have a lot of people that I really like, but Pac's my favorite wrestler in the whole world, and I think that he's incredible at what he does. And so him being kind of teased, in and out of this group, even though I love Lance Archer, it's not the same. The Death Triangle, everybody dies triangle is not the same as the Death Triangle. I'm sorry.
No, I agree.
So I miss Pac a lot. But there's great storytelling here, and I think that long term we're going to see a lot more of him. And as long as he's in this grouping, like you said, I think that the AEW is doing a great job of focusing these 7 guys against each other. Iron sharpens iron. I'll say it again and again. When you got guys this talented going against each other, it's just going to bring out the best in them. So,
for sure. Yeah.
That said, with the storytelling, kind of telling the, planting seeds for the future, I really think that the AEW's women's division, one of the things that I really love about what they've been doing lately, SPD, is they are telling stories with these characters.
Finally,
we're not just having so many these. We've I don't know how many times when we would have these conversations about women's wrestling in AEW, you would give these segments deletes, and your biggest pet peeve was always that it felt like these matches were just thrown together, and that there was no real consequences, there was no real investment. Why do I want one person to win over the other?
Yep.
We didn't really have any characters to get invested in, and I think that when you see haunting images like you see here,
I need to take this off. It's scary.
yeah, that she's freaking. It's creepy. Literally, you like Abaddon is creepy on social media. Her presentation, she's talk about somebody who's invested in their character. That is a very horrifying, weird, creepy person, and I love that, and I say that in the best way. She's doing
right. It's a compliment.
Job. Yeah, she's doing an awesome job, and I think that it's even her portrayal of her character is allowing Sheeta, our champion, to really showcase characteristics in her and different abilities that she's never really had a chance to show before. I've always been a Sheeta fan as far as what she can do in the ring, but I've always felt like her championship has kind of felt a little off because she's never been a character that we could get invested in much. She's been a great wrestler, but we didn't really know much about Sheeta beyond being a wrestler. And having her go up against Abaddon and kind of showing some fear and some trepidation, showing that those reactions that she's been showing to Abaddon, I think it's humanized Sheeta in a different way, and it's given her more character motivations going forward. I love what they're doing with the AEW's women's division right now, SPD. And even though I will give this match itself a delete, I wasn't a huge fan of the in-ring work that happened in this match, and that's not to say that it didn't serve its purpose. Obviously this match was meant for Tesha to get fed to Abaddon, and that she did. I got to give Tesha props. She took a beating like a champ, and Abaddon successfully made herself established herself as a credible, even though she's only the number 5 contender in the rankings. I think all of us recognize there's an aura or a mystique around her that makes her instantaneously a champion contender.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting feud. It'll be a fun one to watch. The match itself is a delete also for me. It was, your 101 squash match type. But it was a fun little story after the match. And it was Sheeta hit Abaddon straight in the head with a kendo stick. I was like, oh my gosh, that was hilarious. But it is so fitting and was so perfect when Abaddon just sat up from it too. And I was like, okay.
Then she added her own little twist to that move where she started
so
twitching
really
or whatever. It was
part.
Awesome.
I really like that part. So it helped with that storytelling. Sadly, the women didn't get much love on this episode of Dynamite. It didn't strengthen the division the way we've been seeing the momentum go. And slowly, I feel like they lost a little momentum in it. There's so many great things that's been happening over the weeks.
I got to ask, SPD. I got to ask. I felt like they progressed this character. I feel like they progressed this storyline, and we know that Abaddon's going to get a shot at Sheeta. So I have to kind of piggyback off your statement here and just ask you, is it because we didn't see Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker?
I said it last week.
Because I feel like that's the story. That's the story in the women's division that has you hooked.
That is definitely the story. And I said last week, and I stand by it, that Britt Baker and Thunder Rosa could be a co-headline main event at the next pay-per-view. If they do this build right and consistent and strong, Thunder Rosa needs to interrupt Britt on Dark. Thunder Rosa and Britt need to be on Dynamite. It just needs to go back and forth, and you're just gonna get sucked in like we're sucked in for good reasons. I hope that this feud, it's nice to see feuds grow in the women's division, but I hope that the feud with Sheeta and Abaddon doesn't get it doesn't overshine Thunder and Britt
It's
because
really shocking for you to say that too, given that obviously Sheeta's our champion.
yeah.
But I agree. I think the AEW women's title needs to be kind of on the back burner for the Britt Baker versus Thunder feud. I think that's the money feud.
Yeah.
I think that Thunder Rosa is this natural fiery baby face that all of us are behind. I have not met anyone who doesn't like her. I have not met anyone who doesn't like see the potential in Thunder Rosa. I have not met anyone who doesn't respect how she carries herself, how she fights for what she wants, and how she treats other people. I think that there's a lot of people who are like they can recognize this is somebody I can root for inside and outside the ring,
right?
And that's awesome, right? So I think that paired against Britt Baker, who again I've been saying it all year. I think that Britt Baker. I know obviously MJF gets a lot of love for being a phenomenal young heel, but I think that Britt Baker is every bit the heel that MJF is. I think that Britt Baker is every bit as good on the mic as anybody in this company. I think that early on she didn't necessarily know where she was going, but once she hit this DMD heel stride where she just leaned into this character, there's nobody in women's wrestling that I think is more equipped to be the backbone of a division than her.
I can't
she
agree
can do
more.
it all.
Yeah,
she can do it all. I think that Britt Baker is beautiful. She's smart. She's able to cut an incredibly intense promo. Her in-ring work is violent. She's smart in the ring. She knows how to play a crowd, and that's so important. She knows how to play a crowd. She knows how to manipulate emotions and feelings with her in-ring work. And if you pair her up against Thunder, who is that scrappy baby face, who fights with intensity and fire and passion in every single match she's in, I just think it's such a great pairing. And I think that the more that we have segments like that, the more we're going to be invested in the women's division. So I'm with you. I hope that Abaddon and Sheeta have a great match.
Yep.
And I can see that, Sheeta being a monster slayer. She's beat Nyla Rose, and can she beat Abaddon? Who knows? But to me, I think that Thunder Rosa versus Britt Baker is the feud that AEW needs to be going all in on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So speaking of people who are the company is going all in on, I don't think anybody in the whole company is at the forefront quite like Kenny Omega, the cleaner, the collector. What a statement by him tonight. An intense promo, an intense Kenny Omega. Don Callis cut the same exact promo that he cut last night. I watched it. It was like the exact same promo as he did on Impact. Little disappointing on that front. But that said, he made a lot of points that needed to be made. And, how many times have we heard Paul Heyman cut the same promo for Brock? And
right.
that doesn't mean that's not a great promo, right? So
right.
Callis is here to be the hype man. Callis is here to set the stage and set the tone for Kenny. But quite honestly, I don't know if I'd put anybody near Kenny. That guy is such a bright star that it might burn him up, because this guy doesn't need any help. You could tell his confidence is through the roof right now. You can tell that he truly does recognize that he has the ability to take his destiny into his own hands. Kenny has largely been recognized as one of the greatest wrestlers of our time. And rightfully so. But I think that Kenny sees this championship run that he's in here with AEW, the spotlight that he's getting with this national television in North America. I think that Kenny is really recognizing the position he's in and the ability that he has to transform the business and really cement his legacy in wrestling history. I think that you're seeing it right now, SPD, playing out in front of your eyes, and I know you got to be grinning ear to ear.
Oh yeah, this is like I mean I've talked about it before. Sadly, I haven't seen too much Kenny in years in his early career, and it's a shame because this guy is a pure gold. He's a pure star. Before I get into him, I just got to compliment that belt is just a thing of beauty.
Beautiful.
Pretty Platinum is gorgeous. That's got to be the best belt in the biz. That is
it's huge. A beautiful belt.
Wow.
It's so big that Kenny had to give it to Don at some point during the interview because you could tell how heavy. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just the whole gimmick that Kenny's going on right now. I mean, his entrances are getting better and better and better, and I think he's just coming up with more and more stuff.
Funny.
Just saying how he's undefeated in sanctioned match in 466 days, and then how Justin Roberts is always like North Carolina. Do you know why is he always emphasizing North Carolina? Do you know why?
No, we need to find out
because
Twitter Nation, help us out.
Yeah, he's not from North Carolina, but he's like, and he flew over North Carolina.
Yeah, I know.
Ridiculous and funny. They keep giving North Carolina different pops, but I mean, yes, he is doing an amazing job, really cementing himself as a top heel in the biz with so many good heels right now in AEW, and he is he's rapidly climbing the ladder as one of the best heels in AEW. I mean, that could be a good poll for us this week on Twitter. Who is the best heel in AEW right now? Because it's hard to argue against people like MJF. I mean,
even Britt Baker, MJF, Kenny Omega
right now. Kenny Omega, it is Chris Jericho, but
Kingston.
Yeah, I mean, it is that. But so this feud or the way he's going right now, I know it's only 1 week away from him taking the title. I could see Moxley kind of being away from TV for a bit, kind of being nowhere place for him, sadly. And that's just because, I mean, the roster is so jam-packed and he could be easily feuded with anybody. And, Don Callis pairing is outstanding. I think at first I was a little hesitant, but seeing them last night on Impact and seeing him right here and how good he is and how good of a hype man he is and how, Kenny doesn't need it. Kenny is an A+ mic work.
Oh man, he doesn't.
A+ mic work. But when Don Callis says some people make matches, some people make money, Kenny Omega makes history. I was like, that's great. And, it's a good pairing together. We talked about, Paul Heyman, he's the mic piece, but
yeah,
his talent usually don't speak. And this is like a 1-2 punch with, Don and Kenny, and they're both just pure gold together. And
that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, that's stuff. That's a really good point by you. I will say, even though the majority of Callis's promo was the same as last night, I did really, really like how Callis kind of came in and leaned into how Kenny is going to kind of change the business. And I think that you could tell he believes that. You can tell when somebody is being authentic on the mic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Callis leaning into that and believing that and this is a guy who's been, all of us who are diehard wrestling fans know Don Callis has been through the ropes. He's been all over the map. The guy's been in all sorts of different promotions. And for somebody with that kind of history and that kind of legacy, that kind of resume, to genuinely cut promos where he's talking about changing the landscape of wrestling,
right,
being attached to somebody who he believes is the best in the world, it's pretty awesome. So I think Callis did a great job there. And I will also say his delivery of you just welcome to the business, kid. That the line that he gave to Tony was a really nice little line too.
Yeah. When they started jabbing at Tony, that really helps.
Yeah. Yeah. How you invited me into your house and like, welcome, he kind of gave Tony an education that the wrestling business, we as wrestling fans know. One of my favorite things being a wrestling fan is kind of finding out the dirt. I love the show, Dark Side of the Ring. Like finding out the backstories and the things that happen beyond the ring in the locker room and sort of stuff like that. And so I love when they blur the lines like that and they kind of show you, hey, there is some darkness in the wrestling business. There are people who are willing to stab you in the back for their own gain. There's countless stories in wrestling where you could find different people who were backstabbed and different people who did the politics to get to the top. So speaking of getting to the top and people who are willing to do anything it takes to get there, I think MJF proved tonight he was in it to win it. And I interacted with MJF this week on Twitter. It was like one of the coolest things that happened to me. So MJF, you go ahead.
You better not watch this episode.
I know he'll be if he watches this episode, he'll be all over me for being a fat mark and all this stuff. But I gotta say, man, I loved the interaction with him on Twitter. I think that MJF made it clear a couple days ago when we talked to him about this match. It was so cool that he basically just said, "I'm going to hurt Orange Cassidy."
And he did.
His goal was to hurt Orange Cassidy. And I think from the minute the bell rang, MJF attacking at Orange Cassidy, breaking those glasses, throwing him into the crowd.
Yeah.
MJF, has been teased as being soft by Jericho. Kind of made that pointer a couple weeks ago, and before MJF joined the Inner Circle. And I think MJF has shown he's anything but soft. This dude is willing to do anything it takes to win. He's a rare, conniving, smart heel. And I say that with purpose, because so often in today's wrestling, our heels are presented as idiots who can't do anything, but they can't win unless they cheat. And they oftentimes have poor motivations and are portrayed as bumbling idiots. Maxwell Jacob Freeman is anything but that. He's incredibly intelligent. He's smart, calculated, conniving, and he's easy to see why. It's very easy when you watch him, why so many of us believe that this guy is the real deal. Taz even quoted tonight that MJF is not just a kid with a bright future. Mm-hmm. He's a man, and he's a star. Taz said it really well, and I couldn't agree with him more. I think MJF really, really stood out tonight. I know that this was like you and I talked about this week. MJF versus Orange Cassidy was kind of that breakout star of the year ultimate battle, right? Mm-hmm. You had the breakout star from a heel perspective and a breakout star from a face perspective. Nobody sold more t-shirts or merchandise on Pro Wrestling Tees than Orange Cassidy. People love OC. Even Tony Khan is an OC mark. So it's really easy to get behind this guy. He's so laid back. He's so chill, and he's fun to watch in the ring. But for me, the more and more the closer and closer I got to this match, SPD, the more and more I wanted to see MJF win it. There's just something about this kid. Sorry, I just made the mistake. Something about this guy who is really a star. He knows what to do. He knows how to play it. What did you think about this match?
MJF it was true heel work in the ring, targeting the hand nonstop.
That's what I'm talking about. Smart heel.
Very smart heel. It's fun to see him, back performing in the ring in a one-on-one match, because he's got some great in-ring charisma. He's strong in the ring. Yeah. Granted, it's a smaller guy than him, but he just is always fun to watch. He paces the match very well. And like the announcer said, the whole match turned into a glorified impromptu lumberjack match. Yeah. And so we saw that in picture. All hell broke loose when Inner Circle was going after Best Friends, and Best Friends got some, back up there. But I really enjoyed the match. It made sense to me why this was the main event. Yeah.
Anytime MJF's in the ring, it's got to be the main event.
Oh, for sure. And because right now, I mean, we'll do our poll, but right now MJF is definitely, I think, the top heel in AEW. And I think a lot can agree, because he lives and breathes his character inside and out of the ring. I talked to other people about this, and how, people on podcasts and different things, like they turn into themselves. But MJF, he is MJF.
He's MJF through and through, and like him or not.
Me hate him so much more because he's not sympathetic or real. It just makes it's more props to him. The more haters he has, the better he's doing.
Exactly. Exactly. But like you and I talk about, like Lance Archer, you interact with him on social media, right? He's the Murder Hawk Monster, but he's like the nicest guy that you'll interact with on social media. Just a nice guy. And for you to interact with somebody like MJF, who is just unabashedly a dick, it's just awesome, man. He's funny. I think that this is somebody who knows that he struck gold. Mm-hmm. He doesn't need to change a thing. He doesn't need to change a thing. He's so like, and this is what I want to give you props for pointing that out about the way he wrestled this match, because, so often we could go to the well of cheating to get cheap heat, but MJF as a heel wrestled this match smart, and he got the crowd hating him for the targeted offense that he had on OC's hand. Right. And I just felt like he kept going to that hand over and over and over in the match. And it just, as fans, you just like, you start seeing like, oh my God, you start feeling worse and worse and worse for Orange Cassidy. So it's just really smart offense. And you even mentioned his power and his strength. I mean, hitting a tiger driver like he did, hitting that double underhook drop onto his knee. It was incredibly impressive. I mean, the guy has a nice blend of skill set that he can have a good match with anybody. Like in this example, right? Like Orange Cassidy's he's in the ring with Orange Cassidy. He throws his power around a little bit more, right? But he's in a match with Jon Moxley for the world title. He didn't do that at all. He focused more on a technical ground game, right? Yeah. So it shows an intelligence from a character perspective, and clearly as a person, he's a smart guy. He knows this business inside. He knows what he's doing. He
definitely knows. He is working way beyond his age. He's very smart, and we want to see more and more of him each week. I don't know. I'm very impressed. He is a main event star. I can't wait for the day where he has the title, and he's just even more turned up to being more of a dick than he already is. And then for fans to come back to stadiums and just to boo the crap out of him, to give him so many different chances. So heat that he can get,
he will get so with live crowds as a champ. Oh my God, I can't imagine the heat he's going to be able to pull in.
So I guess that's good that AEW didn't pull the trigger on him with the belt, because they really will capitalize.
Save that moment for when you have a crowd. I 100% agree. This match gets an elite from me, and not only does it get an elite from me, but MJF is my performer of the night. SPD, this match get an elite from you as well?
The match is definitely an elite for me. I thought there's so many things were going on, the match itself, and very well wrestled. And, Orange Cassidy doing that springboard swanton. I was like, wow, that could have been quite possibly the move of the night. He kind of surprised me out of that thing right there. So I was happy for
surprises though, man.
Yeah. Here we go. Let's talk about this.
Speaking of surprises, man, you and I have talked about, Miro kind of being muddied down in a feud over a video game, and how it felt like it was such a waste of his talents.
Yeah.
Miro is a powerhouse, and his ability to showcase
finally
just physically exude anger from his presence. That's a great freaking picture, SPD. Nice job, bro. Just there are a few people. I mean, look at that. Look at this monster.
You're talking about bar fights and people in an alley.
Thank you. Yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, holy smokes.
You want to beat him in the alley? No, thank you.
He came out tonight, and SPD, it was a convincing ass whooping that he gave. I love what Miro has been doing lately, showing more intensity in his character. The Battle Royal was a great showcase for Miro as far as, what he's physically capable of. This went even further, not only showing what he can do physically, but again, showcasing his character work. He made this segment work. It could have been just another random beating or interference segment, but it wasn't that. This was one of those moments that will really blow you away. And quite honestly, this was the moment of the night for Bonds, wasn't
it? Hey everybody, welcome to Bonds' biggest moment of the week. And Miro, you stole the show at the end. MJF and Orange Cassidy, who are those guys? Nobody was even talking about them. The biggest match of the night, and who are they talking about? They're talking about Miro. Because Miro came out there, threw around half the roster, destroyed a bunch of security guards, and made it known that he is the dominant force on Dynamite. It is his time to be that dominant force. SPD and Crayfish, I need your opinions on what Miro did tonight, because I think this was a star-making moment. and you're going to hear all about it in my column because that was the biggest moment of the night. I cannot wait to see what they're doing with him in the future because it looks like it can be a bloodbath anytime he's out there.
Wow. This was my favorite Bonds' moment of the night. Bonds came in hot.
Yeah.
You could tell Miro got him fired up, man. This was
Big
awesome.
time.
I take personal offense to the fact that you said that MJF, no one's talking about MJF and OC because Bonzi boy, MJF is my top performer of the night. But I got to give you your props, man. Miro certainly has created a buzz around himself right now with this increased physicality.
This is something we've been preaching since his debut, how he needs to go on a pure tear. Like if he debuted this way, it would have been amazing. And this is exactly what he needs to do. Just rip people apart, throw people down the ramp, do whatever you can just to be this absolute beast that he is and that we know he is. And I mean, Bonds got me almost speechless.
My man Bonds
fired up.
He said it
rightfully
well.
So. I mean,
he said it well. That attack by Miro was not just any old like fight like that. Miro was a monster at the end of the show, and rightfully so. There's going to be a lot of buzz about him going forward. This is exactly what we need to see out of Miro. I think all of us are totally comfortable with watching Miro beat people up. That is what we love. This guy is a physical specimen, and there are a few people who know how to just again emote like their anger through their physical actions. This guy just feels like pure rage. Like it's wild to watch because I know that this could have been his debut, but the more that I look at his character as an overall arc, I think it's kind of cool to see this is such a laid back, chill, funny guy who has this intense rage that comes out like, and who of all of us gamers, I know that he's a big gamer on Twitch. Of all of us gamers, who have not had that gamer nerd rage come out where you throw your controller against the wall? Imagine being the size of Miro. That controller would have no chance. It would go through the wall. So this is Miro as the gamer nerd rage coming out in the body of a massive Bulgarian brute. So I love what they did tonight. Bonzi boy, I can say I can respect your take, but I will disagree. I think the takeaway from tonight was MJF. This was his night, dude. MJF killed it in his promo earlier in the night with the Inner Circle at the Inner Circle Ultimatum. I thought that he felt genuine. He tricked this stupid Mark into believing that he actually cares about the Inner Circle and wants them all to be successful. And then I think that he really, really, really had an incredible win in a big match. You know, he had the Dynamite Diamond ring already. The guy already has a long list of accomplishments in AEW, but for him to go back to back and win the Dynamite Diamond rings 2 years in a row, defending his crown and adding another ring to his arsenal, beating Orange Cassidy, who again beat I love that MJF said this tonight. You know, beating Orange Cassidy, who beat Jericho twice, which is hard to do. I just loved MJF's overall display of smarts, physicality, and really this was, to me, going into the week, I felt like this was a battle of the breakout stars of AEW. And there's no way for me not to give it to MJF because he proved that he won that award tonight. He went over Orange Cassidy. He beat OC. And I think that the way he did it was in convincing fashion. So I think I would be failing the AEW community if I didn't give it to him tonight. That is my pick for top performer of AEW Dynamite.
Oh, that is definitely a great pick, and you said it very well. I mean, MJF was featured on many segments tonight, and rightfully so, and he shined on all of them in all aspects, you know, on the mic, in the ring, and the storytelling. You know, the Young Bucks were my pick.
I'm shocked.
I'm a big Young Bucks. I'm a huge Young Bucks fan, and this was a card like we talked about that was jam-packed. I mean, it'd be interesting to go back to count how many stars were actually featured on the show. You know, it's got to be upwards of 30 or 40 or even more.
AEW
And so
does a
there's
great job of that every
so many people that could have been the top performer of the night. But I just really love what the Young Bucks do in the ring. They're very polished, they're very fun, and they consistently show me something new, like every
Yeah.
time I see them in the ring. And so that's why they are my top performers, just because they went all the way to it. You know, they were selling certain injuries. They're great storytelling. They had their promo in the beginning, and I love their entrance with the money
Yeah.
spraying. So I don't
The
know.
money,
It's just they got my
No,
top.
I can respect that take too, SPD, because we talked about it in our review of their match earlier tonight. I love that these guys are giving back and really engaging, giving us as fans matches that we wouldn't necessarily expect to see. And we're getting a lot of exciting, interesting matches. And for the Young Bucks, one of the biggest criticisms these guys get is that they're spot monkeys, but I think that they're proving with this championship reign that they're nothing like that. That they've grown so much as performers. They've grown so much as professional wrestlers. Their journey has taken them a long way from being, these guys who would just super kick people. Their offense is so much more diverse than that now. And like you said, they're more than capable of carrying like a story in the ring. I think that, Matt Jackson in particular, I've been incredibly impressed by his ability to sell and really showcase injuries and the battles that have gone on. I think that they've done a great job. And whenever we highlight the Young Bucks, we also need to showcase that these guys, man, the BTE content that they give us every single week is incredible alone. They can be top performers just for that, right?
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
I love what we got. Speaking of BTE, I mean, I always look forward to Mondays, and then that only gets me more hyped for Wednesdays. So
I know.
next week's gonna be another great show, guys. We got the Hangman Adam Page teaming up with BTE stars, the recruitment specialist Alex Reynolds and John Silver, which is going to be so fun because they're also going against fellow BTE stars Matt Hardy and Private Party. Matt Hardy's been so freaking funny on
The
BTE.
truth is the truth.
That guy continues to reinvent himself in ways that very few people do. He stays relevant, and he's been so many different characters over the years. I got to give it to Matt Hardy. I've been loving this new iteration of his character, and I can't wait to see that matchup. I think there's going to be a lot of funny spots in that match, but we can go into it and say, man, like anytime you see Hangman Page in the ring, anytime you see Private Party out there, you're going to see a lot of like exciting back and forth action. I really do think that this one's going to be an awesome match and could low key be maybe the match of the night. I think that's got a lot of potential to it.
I agree. I think this one is going to be one I'm most looking forward to. And I know we only got a few confirmed matches, but historically speaking, over the past few weeks, we're probably going to see a couple more matches and some other big segments coming. Cody Rhodes and Angelico, that secretly is also going to be another great wrestled match. I mean, Cody Rhodes can put on a great match with anybody, and Angelico, as we've seen over the past few weeks, just being outstanding in the ring too. So that's another one to look forward to. Unexpectedly too.
Anybody who's been a fan of what we've seen out of TH2 has to give Angelico his props. I mean, the guy has carried his own. I think that he's got everybody wanting to see more TH2. So Cody going against him is not a surprise because I think that Cody recognizes he wants to give the fans what they want, right? And we want to see a little bit more TH2, and I think that that's going to be a great interaction with Cody. It's an interesting matchup, not necessarily something that I would have predicted to happen next week, but I will be intrigued to see how that match plays out because low key, that too could be a match where talk about technical wrestling. And Angelico has a great MMA background. Cody always prides himself on his ability to be, the collegiate wrestling. There could be some really good mat-based wrestling in that match. I'm really interested to see where that goes. I think the match of the night that is really the most up in the air as far as what we could expect. It could be an absolute show stealer, or it could be one that maybe falls a little short. I don't know what to expect out of the Acclaim versus SCU. Really, I guess more than anything, that is going to be a showcase of a young team being paired up against a bunch of veterans. So let's hope that SCU brings their A game and helps these guys put on a great performance, because I know AEW wants to see the Acclaim succeed on their show. I think they recognize that these guys have a lot of upside. So I think SCU's there's a lot of pressure on them, and I know Frankie Kazarian takes a lot of pride in this. There's a lot of pressure on SCU to continue to come in cold off the bench and deliver in a clutch moment. And I think that if Frankie, I mean, that dude never ages. If Frankie and is it going to be Christopher Daniels this week?
I don't think they officially announced it, but I would
it.
assume it's going to be, Christopher Daniels or Frankie Kazarian.
Yeah. So if that's the case, you know that the Acclaimed are going to be in good hands.
Yep.
Let's hope that match, those two teams gel and their styles work together. That would be a really great one. SPD, go ahead and what do you got going on with that women's tag match?
Yeah, Serena Deeb and Big Swole versus Diamante and Ivelisse. Some other interesting superstars that we haven't seen in a while and that have really had some good matches. Diamante and Ivelisse won that tag team tournament, so they have some good chemistry going on. And Big Swole was very fun to watch in the ring when she was feuding with Britt Baker, and of course we're very high on Serena Deeb. So
for sure,
got some 4 pretty good women's wrestlers in a match next week that should be pretty entertaining, and hopefully they draw some storylines from there, and you might see some Nyla Rose and Vicky Guerrero interfering.
We need to see
like
something there for sure. I think that, what we've been really happy about going, in the last few weeks is that the women's division's been kept rather tight and that they've given showcase spots for key performers and given them stories. So my hope is, if I know that the company really sees a lot in Big Swole, and I think everybody recognizes what a pro Serena Deeb is, just what a class act she is, and what an absolute workhorse that she is. So I think that there's something to be said for that tag team. Diamante and Ivelisse are kind of like remind me of Santana and Ortiz of the women's division. They just kind of have that like gangster attitude to them. I like that a little bit. So it could be an interesting match next week. Certainly doesn't have the story going into it like we would have hoped, but maybe we'll see something. AEW always does a nice job of planting those breadcrumbs for us, always putting those little seeds there where we want to keep coming back for more. Speaking of coming back for more, you guys are going to need to come back for more by subscribing now to us on YouTube. Please click that button. We monitor that stuff, and every time we get that number go higher, it always makes us feel good. We talk about it.
Thank you.
It pushes us to keep going. We really appreciate the following that you guys have had, and we love interacting with you guys on social media. So make sure to follow us on Twitter at AEW Dynamite DL, or on Instagram for dynamitedownload.com. We've really been making a lot of headway on Dynamite Download on Instagram, thanks to SPD's interactive polls. You're going to want to get involved in those. You're going to see all the clips and highlights of this week's show, and it's going to give you a nice talking platform for that. And then on Twitter, we're going to be engaging you, and Twitter is such a great way to interact with the wrestlers and fellow fans. So next week, guys, we're in store for another great episode of Dynamite. Until then, we're out.